Owning a rare, expensive car is something that many of us dream of, but few get the opportunity to experience. Should we ever be that fortunate, we like to think that we'd take great pride in our exclusive vehicles and keep them cleaned, polished, and well-maintained. We might even consider passing them down as investments to our children. We almost certainly wouldn't ever consider abandoning them or forgetting they exist. And yet some people do, as you're going to see in this video. Our first car is a totally unique Mazda 254i Le Mans racer that was thought to have been lost for more than 30 years before it turned up in Japan in early 2019. It's the only example of the 1982 class of car in existence and competed at the world-famous race that year. Sadly for the car and its driver, they didn't perform well. Because they disappeared from public view as soon as the race was over, it was feared that it had been scrapped in disgrace. But it had actually been quietly shipped to Japan, where it competed in a number of JPSC races during the 1990s, disguised by a shocking pink paint job. It was retired toward the end of the decade and eventually turned up in a rural area of western Japan, where a senior Mazda speed mechanic had to be called upon to verify its identity. Mazda has since taken the car back and transported it to the Powercraft specialty shop, where it'll be restored, and may even race again at classic car events. Monster cars have always been popular in the United States of America, where monster truck shows are popular attractions. It was in the spirit of those monster truck events that the Monster Limo was built by Tom Feeney in Portland, Oregon in 1983. Feeney took a 1983 Lincoln Stretch limousine and converted it into a monster limo by using the Lincoln body on the chassis of his existing Iron Butterfly, and then exhibited it at events in 1990 and 1991. It seems he quickly tired of his toy, though, because it disappeared from the public eye after that and was eventually found at a yard in Winlock, Washington in 2012. By that point, it had been standing in the yard for 12 years, and its hauler had already been scrapped by new owner Chris Roy. The body of the limousine, with the paintwork that Feeney gave to it, still exists, although given the fact that it doesn't currently have any wheels, it's unlikely it's going to move again anytime soon. Unfortunately, we suspect that the Monster Limo will soon be headed for the scrapyard. In August 2020, the world of classic car collectors got very excited about a sudden appearance of a 1938 Fiat 1500 Glazer Cabriolet on the open market, after it turned up as a barn find. It's a little bit dusty, and perhaps a little bit rusty too. But there's no disguising the sleek bodywork and its timeless elegance. For a car that was built before the Second World War broke out, it's not looking too bad. What makes the car extra special is its 6-cylinder 1500cc engine. It's thought that only 20 units of this vehicle in this configuration were ever completed. Its history prior to the 1990s is mysterious, but it was acquired by a collector early that decade, then locked away in a barn for the next 3 decades. His reasons for hiding it away from the world and doing nothing with it aren't known, but at least it was kept somewhere safe and dry, which has protected it against the worst ravages of time. The price the owner wanted for it was just under $50,000, which we think is reasonable given the rarity and pedigree of the old Fiat. You might not be aware of it, but there is a whole market out there for the old GM Futureliner custom vehicles. And those who are involved in it are very passionate about it. There are even people who have Futureliner tattoos. As the vehicles were built during the 1940s and 1950s, those that still exist today are very old and frequently found in poor state. That statement certainly applies to this one, which was acquired by Brad Boyajian of the American Movie Trucks Company in California in the late 1990s. When he got his hands on it, he described it as the most original, unrestored Futureliner he'd ever seen. The bodywork may be a little shabby, but it still contains all of its original fittings and fixtures. This particular model is chassis number 3, which had a cutaway Allison J35 to demonstrate to the public how jet engines operated. As the Futureliners were built by GM for their Parade of Progress events, most of them served in educational or informational purposes. Brad held on to it for several years in its original state but eventually sold it in September 2011 for $250,000 to a new owner who intends to restore it, right down to finding a new J35 jet engine to put inside it. This sleek, shiny silver 1960 Alfa Romeo Gioletta SZ looks like something that James Bond would drive in a movie. Can you believe that someone left it standing out in a field, exposed to the elements, for years on end? The car's registration history reveals that it was registered for road use for the first time in 1965, despite being built in 1960, but became unregistered in 1971 and spent the next 20 years forgotten in a field, slowly falling to pieces. It wasn't until the mid-1990s that someone spotted it and decided they were going to treat it with the respect it deserved. They fitted a new body and new engine and re-registered it in 1995, but unbelievably, it became unregistered once again in 2001 and is thought to have spent the next 15 years hidden inside a barn in Belgium. That's no way to treat a stunning vehicle that was based on the better-known Gioletta Spider and has a body built by Franco Scaglione. The car is now available for sale once again, and this time we hope the story will have a happy ending. Our next story takes us to St. Louis, Missouri, where we find this royal blue 1970 Maserati Mexico. Maserati's older cars can be a little hit and miss when it comes to style, but we think this one is a smash hit. Its owner might not have shared the opinion. Between 1987 and 2019, it was in storage and never saw the light of day. Conceived as a vaginale concept car with a body fitted onto a Maserati 5000 GT, only 485 units of the Mexico were built during its production run between 1966 and 1972. Of those, only 175 came with the 290 horsepower, 4.7-liter engine you'll find under the hood of this particular example. Even fewer of them came with factory air conditioning, which makes it even rarer. Originally, it was used as a daily driver, but was parked in a garage after suffering a minor mechanical failure and then never taken out again. Some restoration work will probably be required because the paintwork is pitted and the interior is a little battered, but there's no reason why it can't be returned to its former glory. Back in 1967, AC took the questionable decision to stop producing the Ace, a car based on Shelby's Cobra. Ford wanted to keep the Cobra going because the car had done so much good for their image, but there were disagreements within the company about the shape that Cobras of the future would take. Eugene Bordenac came up with a bold concept, but his vision never made it beyond the prototype stage and was quickly abandoned. Years later, Alvin Kelly came across one of these ultra-rare Bordenac prototypes and decided he was going to try to finish Bordenac's work. The cars that were created as a result of Kelly's labors were called Kelly Pythons, and no more than a dozen were ever made. Of that small group, only 7 are thought to still exist today. The car you see here is one of them. Ford must have been impressed with his work because at the time they were brand new, Ford was happy to have them sold through their dealerships. How or why this car came to be abandoned shortly after it was bought is unknown, but it was found in a storage unit in early 2020 and cleaned up, ready for sale. Amazingly, it was still in drivable condition without any attention from a mechanic. While you might be able to buy the Kelly Python and drive away with it, the same, sadly, can't be said about this 4-speed 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS396. On the plus side, the 1990 version of this muscle car is considered to be the most collectible of them all. On the downside, it's going to need a lot of love and attention to make it look less like a broken-down pile of junk. Fortunately, with its Kentucky-based owner wanting only $6,000 for it, it's cheap enough to pick it up, fix it up, and sell it at a comfortable profit. Another fact that it has going for it is that this is an original SS version of the car. Many lesser Chevelles were converted into SS units in the 1970s, but this one came out of the factory as it is. Whether that's relevant when the original engine is missing is a matter for the buyer to decide. When a car turns up in this kind of condition, it's usually been picked over for parts. And that begs the question of who would remove parts from a beautiful Chevy like this in the mistaken belief that they'd be more useful elsewhere. Compared to our next abandoned race car, that Chevy's in great condition. You might have to look at this vehicle for a long time before you can identify it, but it is, or at least it was, a 1974 Acapulco edition Volkswagen thing. It's one of only 400 ever built, although if this car has a future, we suspect it will have to be built again almost from scratch. Despite these shocking images, the seller claims that it comes with every necessary part to rebuild it. That's despite the fact that the top is missing, the interior looks like it was hit by a falling meteorite, and all of the seats are missing along with the dash. What distinguished the Acapulco edition from the standard thing was the blue and white color scheme. But that's long since either rusted over or faded away. We think there's just enough left of the shell of the vehicle left to salvage if someone with exceptional restoration skills was able to get their hands on it. As someone picked it up on eBay for $2,000 in 2019, we can only hope that the restoration project is already underway. When a car is broken down as badly as that Volkswagen, we can understand how it came to be abandoned. We're going to need a better explanation as to why this dusty Porsche Carrera GT has been left to fend for itself at an abandoned car dealership in China. The dealership closed years ago, yet somehow this beautiful car remained unsold. The owner of the dealership didn't even think to take it away with them when they left. The most common theory about its fate is that the Porsche fell foul of new rules introduced by the Chinese government to cut down on excessive consumption. The Porsche is both very expensive and very uneconomical to run, so it breaks those rules on 2 counts. Someone must have driven it though, as it has just under 3,000 miles on the clock. It must have been a trade-in rather than a brand new car. Some Porsche experts claim this is one of only 3 Carrera GTs that come with the distinctive Zanzibar red metallic paint job, which would push its value even higher. As of August 2020, it's been standing in the closed dealership for 8 years. What a waste. As strange as it might sound today, the car manufacturers of the 1950s believed that jet engines were the future, and they experimented extensively with prototype jet cars. One such attempt to make a viable model was the 1958 Plymouth Tornado, which once seen is never forgotten. Somewhere underneath all of its modifications is a 1958 Plymouth Fury that's been fitted with a nose inspired by jet planes, 2 exhaust rockets, and a tail wing. Plymouth showed it off at car shows for a few years, but the idea never caught on, and by 1974 they had no further use for it. That's when a retired American sports star bought it, but he passed away not long afterward, and the Tornado was left standing in the field outside his former property for the next 3 decades. Car collector Moses London eventually acquired it in 2015 and spent 5 years repairing and refitting it, a job that included removing a hornet's nest from one of the seats. He's done an incredible job, and now it's a fabulous piece of Americana. Here's a question for you. Would you pay $15,000 for a car that has just 3 wheels and 1 door? If so, this quaint 1959 Messerschmitt KR200 could be yours to take home. It's so small that you might even be able to pick it up and carry it, which is probably just as well, because it doesn't appear to be in drivable condition. The microcar market largely vanished after the 1960s because they were seen as cars for poor people. But 21st century life, with its busy city centers and lack of parking, has seen smaller cars become fashionable again. That's given a shot in the arm for the vintage market, so the prices of cars like the Messerschmitt have gone through the roof. This one's been in a barn for years, waiting for the right moment to re-enter the world. You could only carry 1 passenger with you if you were to drive it, and even then it might be a squeeze. But you'd surely attract a lot of admiring glances as you passed. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, and you will be the first to know when a new video comes out. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.